Hello, I'm at the Glebe. It's part of the Mallory Park complex, and I'm here today for a specific reason. I've come to catch up with an angler who I consider has been a phenomenon over the last decade. Most match anglers, if they won 100 open matches in their career, they'd think they'd done very well. In a short space of 3 years, Andy won over 100 open matches on this complex alone. But he's not a method angler. He's not a guy who just catches on the paste or just catches on pellets. He catches on all methods. I know he's fishing the Sweetcorn this morning, which has kind of become unfashionable, but he's still a great believer in the method. I'm going to go and see how he's getting on. See you later. Morning.
Morning, Dave.
Nice to know some things never change.
Yeah, I've been fishing about half an hour, and this is my second fish I've had on. It feels about 4 or 5 pounds, decent fish.
Were you fishing straight out?
No, I'm fishing in the margins, about 16 metres range.
That's a lump.
Yeah.
The light's not great, is it?
No, it's where my float is. It's rippling with the reflection of the bank. It makes it very hard to see. To chunky fish, that's probably nearer 7 pound. That is.
Cracking. It's an incredible place, isn't it?
It is. Nice chunky thing.
Isn't it a nice fish?
Yeah.
Don't need too many of them, do you? When I spoke to you on the phone, you said you were going to be fishing the Sweetcorn today, and that seems to have gone out of fashion a little bit. Have you had that on the Sweetcorn?
Yeah, it was. It was on one piece of Sweetcorn. I'm actually feeding Sweetcorn. That's the only bait I've got on my tray, because I've got a lot of confidence this time of year, April, May, where the fish are just waking up, and it's a bait that's the carp seem to take readily without filling themselves up. It's surprising how much corn you can get through fishing a 5-hour match. Once you start getting bites, you can really ladle the stuff in, and it just brings more and more fish into the peg without filling them up. I think really it's the reason for it is that when it's all crushed down, it just turns to water. So there's not actually a lot of food in there.
No.
That's right.
And what are you using? Golden Sweet?
Yeah, it's a cheap brand I buy from Lidl actually. That's not the reason I use it mostly. It's because it's cheap, but the uniform size and the bright yellow colour. A lot of the corn varies these days. Years ago I used to use Green Giant, but that seemed to go a lot paler and softer. But this stuff is, you know, it's quite uniform size and a really bright yellow colour, and actually you can try it if you eat it yourself, just like a few grains. I'm not really keen on sweet corn, but if you taste different brands, then you'll find that some sweeter than the others.
Yeah, I was talking to Jan Porter about it, and he uses Sweetcorn a lot for his carp fishing.
Yeah.
And he buys Tesco's cheapest.
Right.
And now, what he said was completely contrary to what you've just said, because he said what he liked about the Tesco was it was all different shapes and sizes.
Oh, okay. Well, no, I don't go along with that, because I liked the thing with unisized pieces of corn is that they sink at the same rate, you know, and you know that where you pot them in, they're on the bottom. So that's where your hook bait must lie, right in the pile of corn that you've fed. The smaller bits are obviously lighter, so that means when there's fish over them, then, you know, the fish are going to waft the lighter bits out of the peg or away from where you're trying to present your bait.
Yeah. And how many pots of that have you put in up to yet?
Well, this is very important, the feeding of the corn. I've started here, because I'm fishing in the margin, you know, I don't really expect to catch early on, but I've started with probably half a pot of corn.
Yeah.
And then after every fish, my plan is to feed about that much corn on top.
Right.
So every time I've caught a fish, played it, put it in my keep net, and straight after I go out, not with my rig, but with my pole pot, and pot in about, you see how much corn I've put in there?
Handful.
Yeah, I reckon, what is there? There's probably 100 grains of corn there.
Yeah, probably.
And that's enough bait. You know, I know the size of fish in this lake range from 3 to 15 pound, but the average is 3 to 7 pound. And I think there's enough bait there to catch, well, to get four or five fish feeding on the bottom on that much corn, you know, and that's for 10 minutes or so, and that's the time I expect to get a bite.
Right.
If I don't get a bite, then, or if I catch a fish, I'll just ship back, put the fish in the keep net, or rebait if I've not caught a fish, and go out and pot that much corn in again.
Right.
So you're looking just to get a few fish in your peg, not loads and loads of fish, just a few fish in your peg, eating, you know, that much corn in that much area on the bottom. And of course your hook bait's right in the middle of that pile as well.
And
so
when you fish your hook bait on the bottom?
Yeah, it's just like an inch over depth in the middle of that pile of corn. So it's very likely to be taken as a fish are eating your feed.
Okay, so away we go. This is going to be one of those days where when the sun comes in and you'll be able to see one colour flow.
Yeah, it's very awkward. What I've actually done is plumbed up to find about 2 feet of water in the margins. But as it's happened, the light is very awkward to see afloat there with the ripple.
Yeah.
So I've just changed my position slightly to 6 inches to the right, which is nearer the margin, where the water appears darker and I can see my float a lot better there.
It's amazing how close to the bank you can catch these fish, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you know, again, it's because it's a time of year that the fish are, I'm taking time to pot that in there because what I need is it to be, you know, in one place. And don't spread it around, it wants to be in one place so that you can, you know, your hook bait can sit in the middle of it. But yeah, you know, the water's warming at this time of year and the fish realise that and they want to be up into the shallow water. So that's why the margins are a good place to target.
The wind has just been kind to you.
Yeah, it's easy to see the float now. Makes a lot of difference. I just dropped that right on that last pot of corn I put
Yes, you
in.
did. I was looking at that marker that you've got on the bank and it was spot on. It looked a big fish.
No, I think it's a skimmer.
It's come to the top. You were saying a few moments ago that you like the sweet corn at this time of year. I think we're all aware of how devastating that could be foul up.
No, I don't think so. Just wrap round, I think.
How devastating the pellet has become in recent times. But what's the deciding factor on you coming to a match and deciding you're going to fish sweet corn as opposed to another bait?
It's got to be the time of year and the temperature of the water. I'd say they're the two major factors. Now, it looks foul up that, but it isn't. It's just
wrapped round
tucked
it.
under its fin.
Is that the average stamp of skimmers in here?
Yeah, they're normally a better than average size. You know, that's knocking on £2, that is.
Yeah, and it's spawning.
Yeah,
or it's spawned.
Yeah, it's
You can
a
always
male
tell
fish.
by the nodules on the top of the head.
That's right.
And I don't know why it's predominantly male fish that get it. When we used to fish at this time of year in Ireland, you'd often used to find that there would be big, hard nodules on the top of the head. It is amazing also, sweet corn, that anything that swims will take it.
Catches everything, yeah. That's the beauty of it. I'm just taking a few minutes, less than a few minutes, but just it's worth taking time to select a big piece of corn because I know the fish run big in here, and again it stands out from from the pile of corn that you've potted in. You know, it's a target bait that the fish are likely to see before the corn you've fed.
And what size hook are you on there?
Well, actually, that's a, believe it or not, that's an 18, and it's a small size in an 18.
Yes, it is. I thought it was probably a 20.
Yeah, well, in some brands it would be a 20, but there's reasons for this. The way I hook it, it's just nicked on like a maggot, if you like. Yep. You know, with this sort of fishing, you get lots of liners, but I'm not really striking at the liners. I'm just lifting my rig out of the water to drop it back in. Now, what I've done, I've just nicked that on with the point showing, so it's very difficult for a fish to take that without getting hooked once I've lifted into it. But supposing I was using a bigger hook, like a 16 or a 14, which many people do, when you lift out, you'll find that you've buried most of the hook inside the corn, but when you lift the rig out and it's not a bite, your hook will come right out.
Yes.
And the fish can see all the hook. But you see that then, you know, it's still barely noticeable when it's on the bottom, a small hook like that. And I'm 100% confident that when I keep lifting the rig out, my corn's still on and it's likely to be taken because the fish just can't see a small hook like that.
No, particularly in coloured water like this.
Yeah. Right, I've caught a fish then, so what I need to do now is I've baited my hook, ready to drop it on where I've fed, so I need to feed now.
Here you go again. There's one or two there, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah,
It's getting better.
At what point would you say that we've now reached the point where I don't think sweet corn is as productive as it was in April and May?
Well, I mean, normally, come June, July time, then I turn to paste them because I think the fish have, you know, got a good appetite by then. The water's been warm for long enough and they want something more substantial to eat. But saying that, corn's one of them baits that will work all year round. You know, when the water's 3 degrees, it's sometimes, well, most of the time, the best bait to have on the hook.
Yeah.
And even when it's 25 degrees, then it's a really good bait. But what you'll find is in them temperatures, you just need to feed more of it. But there's never a day when a carp won't eat a piece of corn. It really
and also,
is.
it's a great bait in the sense that it's no hassle having a tin of corn in your bag, is it?
No, that's it. You know, you don't have to open it.
No.
Or sometimes it can just be effective just as a hook bait over other baits like pellet, ground bait or meat.
And would you ever use it as a change bait in a match?
Well, really, I mean, I'm not one to swap around with me hook baits because I know certain things work, different combinations work, and it's just getting your feeding right that you know makes you start catching. But yeah, I'm not saying, you know, don't change your baits, but if you're happy with a combination of feeding and hook bait, then and sticking by it for when the fish are ready to feed, then you know you'll end up catching a lot more than by keep swapping your baits, I believe.
What elastic are you using?
This is the 15, the blue 15 Holler H that Preston Innovations do. It's about balanced right for these size of fish. That's about £5. From £3 to £8, and it is about right for the blue. And then anything over that, or if you're using a bigger hook on the rig, then I'd step up to the 19.
I've noticed the way you connect your line to your elastic is quite unique. Perhaps when you've got this out, we'll have a look at it, because you don't use a standard setup, do you?
No. Actually, what's happened there is
So the hook comes straight through?
Yeah, it's got caught in the net and the hook's passed through the fish's lip, but there we go. See how it's just nicked in there, Dave?
Yeah.
All that pressure on the elastic and it's not going to pull out. So, you know, I'm a great believer in using small hooks for carp.
That was a nice fish. Let's have a look at this rig and this attachment you've got on the end for connecting your elastic to your line. How does that work? Because I've never seen anything like that.
No, well, I think I'm the only one using this type of attachment. You know, for things to be right for my type of fishing, then I'm known to adapt things that I'm happy with. And what this is it's a small loop, and what the name of it is called Stren. And what Stren is, a long time ago, they used to use it for fly line Baggin. When you used to go fly fishing, you only had 30 yards of fly line, and then you had Baggin at the back of it. And what it is like a really stiff monofilament.
Right.
And all they do is tie a loop in that, a small loop, cut it off, and then that's just overhand knotted onto the blue elastic. Just a simple overhand.
And does
knot.
that stay on all the time?
That's on all the time.
Right.
That's all it is. Lubricate that knot, that blue elastic knot, just before I pull it down. And all the rig is, the actual rig itself is just a lasso knot, if you like, that tightens over the knot.
Right.
Just like, you know, you
so do you do
through.
a double loop?
No,
you
it's
do a
just a single loop. But because it's fairly stiff line that we use these days for this sort of fishing, then it's easy just to tease it open just by pushing the double, and it'll open up for you, just like that, and you can pull it out. So it's a nice simple way of attachment, and it's feather light. You know, a lot of the times, the right way to tension your elastic for carp fishing or any other sort of fishing is to have it just gradually creeping back into the end of your pole.
Yeah.
Just like that's doing. But after a few fish, your elastic might stretch and you'll find it hangs out like that. Which is, you know, with that type of connection, I'm still happy with that because it's a lightweight connection. What you don't want is like a heavy connector that's going to flap about and wobble, cause tangles with your line going around the pole tip, which never happens this way.
Okay, let's just look at this float because it's a very short stem. Is this a float you've modified?
It is. It's a Preston float, and actually it's a canal float for catching small fish with. The model is a PB14, and this one takes 4 number 12s. But what's right for my fishing, for this sort of fishing, it needs to have a heavy stem, which is of wire. That gives the float stability. As the float comes standard, it has a really fine fibre tip, you know, for like sensitive bites off small fish. But what I do, as soon as I get the float, is pull that tip out and replace it with actually this is a bristle off of a Dura float, another Preston float, but you can see it's a hollow tip. It's impregnated with a fluorescent colour and makes it very visible and is buoyant, which holds the corn up. You know, every time you get a liner, it don't pull the float under, you just get an indication. So it's a very important thing, a float is.
But is this a float that you would only use fishing shallow?
Yes, it is. It is. You know, I only use 3 or 4 patterns of floats in all my carp fishing, but this is the one I use when the depth's under 3 feet.
Yeah. And you're fishing with a back shot?
Yeah, the back shot again, very important. There's hardly at all a fish with a float without using a back shot. And the reason for this is to get the line under the water when the float's sitting right. It gets it out the way of the skim, and the float sits, you know, rock steady, and so you're waiting for a bite. Your rig's not continually getting dragged out of position by the wind catching onto your line.
Now I noticed that you're using stots, and I've started using them. And I find them fantastic. I think you just hooked your shoe.
I've got my shoelace. That's how short these hooks are.
Why? I use them because I find it very difficult getting small shot on now, and I do find that they're quite easy. I either just put one on my finger or lay the line across it and squeeze it.
Yeah.
But they are excellent, and the thing I like most about them is they slide, don't they? Slide easy.
You know, the main reason they would develop was because carp fishing, your rig's under a lot of stress. If you're catching a lot of fish, your line's twanging all the time, and the original round shot used to ping off without you knowing. You'd chip out again, and you think, well, I've lost some shot here, and they were prone to doing that. But because these are thick round the ends of the shot, then you don't get that problem, and that shot will stay on there for, you know, as long as you'd like it to.
No, I find them excellent. And we talked earlier about your hook, which is, we've already established, is a size 20. But what, and the fish I've seen you catch this morning are substantial in size. What kind of a hook is it? I mean, you've explained why you use a 20, but what type of a hook is it?
Yeah, well, it's actually called a PR29, which the Preston do. But the makeup of the hook, it's made from a very strong wire that's been forged. And it's a type of hook, it's a crystal bend, and although it's a strong wire, it's been forged, so it means it's, you know, really strong and won't bend open under stress. And like I say, all you do is nick your corn on there, and the hook's, because it's so small, it's barely visible.
But very sharp.
Oh, extremely sharp, and it's a sort of hook that you can catch fish after fish, and the point will stay on it, it won't come off.
Let's see if we can catch some more. You're just a bagging machine. Well, you're obviously going to be here till dusk.
I hope so.
And it's getting stronger and stronger as the day goes on. I'm going to get out of your life. I've enjoyed today, Andy. And I think that what you've demonstrated to me is that despite the fact that from time to time it seems to go out of fashion, Sweetcorn in all its simplicity is still a super bait, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's the best all-round bait.